Hey guys, I just wanted to post this video really quick. It's a review over the study guide. So the key to this is actually going to be posted in your Google Classroom, but I just wanted to go through all this if you need me to verbally go through anything. So first off, something on your test is going to be what was the main issues with the Articles of Confederation. There were a lot of problems with the Articles. Remember, it did not work, okay, for many reasons. But one big thing is this, okay? The government had no authority to collect taxes, which any government has to have money in order to operate. So the fact that under the Articles, the national government did not have this power was going to be trouble. So all of these were reasons that the Articles were reasons, why the Articles failed, but this one specifically is key. The primary reason for the Articles failure, okay? The big key with this is that the states had way too much power. The national government basically had no ability to make the states do what it wanted to do. What the national government wanted the states to do, the states could pretty much do whatever the heck they wanted to do. So that's the key takeaway. The states had too much power. The national government did not have the ability to force the states to do what was needed. The event that made the founders realize it was time to revise the Articles on your tests. You don't have to know these details. I just need you to know that it's Shays' Rebellion. So that's that. Oh crap hit the fan moment. Shays' Rebellion, when farmers tried to overtake the government, that was the moment where our founders realized, okay, it might be time to change our Constitution. And we ended up getting rid of the Articles. What was the only branch of government under the Articles? It was just a legislative branch, a one-house Congress where every state got one vote. Okay? And the founders created this really, really crappy government, this really weak national government, because they were too afraid of having a strong national or a strong central government. They did not want another king or a tyrant like King George III. So they wanted the power to remain with the states instead of the national government. So they were afraid of having a strong national government. Idea of popular sovereignty is that simply people are the source of a government's power and that we have the right to govern ourselves. Okay, popular people, that's another word for people. Sovereignty means the ability to rule. The 19th Amendment, that gave women the right to vote on your test. It will ask you like which amendment expanded, how did this amendment expand popular sovereignty? It gave women the right to vote. So now you basically double the amount of the population that can vote. Idea of separation of powers and checks and balances, just separation of powers. You divide it up into three branches. You have your executive, your judicial, and your legislative. Okay. And then checks and balances, remember, you put the Gimp over that. That's just the way that every branch checks the power of the other. And there are specific checks we'll go through here in a second, but like the president can veto bills. The Supreme Court has the ability to declare laws unconstitutional or acts of the president be unconstitutional. Congress has the ability to impeach the president or the Supreme Court justices and remove them from office if they commit crimes. Congress also has the ability to override a presidential veto. The list goes on and on. Federalism, okay, a lot of you guys get this mixed up. Federalism is the division of power among the three levels of our government. Okay, so separation of powers is the three branches. Federalism is the three levels. So you have the national government, let me get in the frame here. National government, the state government, and then the local government. It's those three levels of our government because we do not just have a national government. Remember, the idea with federalism is like, for instance, I am a citizen of both the United States government, the Kentucky government, and the government of Callaway County and Murray. Okay, you guys are citizens of the United States government, the Kentucky state government, and Trigg County and Cadiz, or Cadiz. Our government structure today, remember this was the Great Compromise. So we have a two-house legislature today. That's how our Congress is set up, with a Senate and a House of Representatives. The Senate has equal representation from every state. Remember, every state gets 2 senators, okay? And then representation in the House is based on the state's population. So if you need a kind of something to remember that example we did in class comparing California and Wyoming. Okay, in the Senate, California and Wyoming have the exact same number of senators. They have 2 from each state, so they have equal representation. In the House, it's a totally different story. California's got a whopping 52 representatives, and Wyoming has 1. They actually have fewer representatives than they do senators. Okay, so just that difference alone shows you the difference between the House, which is based on population, and the Senate, which is based on equal representation. The Federalists, these were people who believed in a strong federal government or national government, and therefore, man, that is misspelled. One second. And therefore believed in the power of the Constitution, because after the failure of the Articles, which had a very weak national government, the Federalists wanted a stronger national government, and they believed in the Constitution. They said to those who were opposed to the Constitution, like the Anti-Federalists, that the Constitution had a system of checks and balances to protect citizens from the national government. But Anti-Federalists like Thomas Jefferson were not swayed. They were afraid of a strong national government, and so they were initially opposed to the Constitution. And the big thing with them is they thought that the Constitution needed a Bill of Rights, and that is ultimately what enabled the Constitution to be approved or ratified by the states. Is that these people who were holding out against the Constitution, once they get promised to a Bill of Rights, so your freedom of speech, your right to bear arms, no quartering soldiers, unlawful search and seizure, all that stuff that's in the Bill of Rights today is meant to protect the citizens from the power of the national government. Supremacy clause in the Constitution, all that does, I say all that does, but it's a big thing. It just states that the Constitution is above absolutely anything. Any national, state, or local law, the Constitution is above. Okay, nothing can go above the Constitution. If anything goes against the Constitution, the Supreme Court has the ability to strike it down as unconstitutional, because there is nothing higher than the Constitution. 14, who can veto laws? That is the president, aka the executive branch. So on your test, there are going to be 6 questions that ask you about specific checks and balances. Okay, so the president has the ability to veto laws. Who can declare laws and acts the president to be unconstitutional? That is the Supreme Court, aka the judicial branch. Anything that deals with something being unconstitutional or constitutional, that is always going to be the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the final interpreter of the Constitution. They have the last say. Okay, looking what the Constitution means and applying it to laws, acts of the president, and just actions in general of individuals. Does what we're looking at this case, is this constitutional? Does it go with what the Constitution tells us? That's the Supreme Court. They have that power to make that determination. 16, who has the power to impeach presidents and override presidential vetoes with a 2/3 vote? That is Congress, okay, the legislative branch. So if the president vetoes a law, Congress can override him or her with a 2/3 majority vote. Or if the president in the executive branch or the Supreme Court with the judicial branch is not doing their job, or they commit a crime in office, the legislative branch has the power to impeach and remove those people from office. Number of electors or electoral votes per the states determined. Okay, so like every presidential election, we talked about the Electoral College. You have those notes. You have all the numbers of the map of the United States. So how do we get those numbers? Like, why does Kentucky have 8 and why does California have 54? It's a state's number of senators plus a state's representatives. So Kentucky has 2 senators and 6 representatives. So we end up with 8. Wait a second. There we go. Stupid automatic lights. We end up with 8, electors in the Electoral College. And remember, the electors are the people who officially cast the ballot for the president. The 3 criticisms of the Electoral College system is the popular vote winner may not win the presidency. And we went over that in class, how that's possible, because the Electoral College, it's pretty much a state-by-state basis. Okay? So you could win 3 states by a whopping margin, but you don't get any bonus points for winning those states by a whopping margin. And then you may lose the crucial state that's worth 30 electoral votes, like let's say Florida, by 1 vote, and it doesn't matter. The other candidate or whoever, they get all those votes. Okay, so that's how it's possible for the person who receives the most votes from the American people to actually lose. For instance, in 2016, and I use this example in class, Trump had 3 million less votes than Hillary Clinton. 3 million more people voted for Clinton than Trump, as far as the American people. But with the Electoral College system, it's just the electoral vote that counts, how the electors vote. and the electors vote based on how the people in the state vote. And Trump won the Electoral College, which is all that matters at the end of the day. Now, the electoral votes, okay, you want to get to 270 because that's the majority that's needed, 1/2. But if neither candidate gets that majority, the House of Representatives gets to decide the winner, and every state gets one vote. Again, this has not happened. I told you guys this has not happened since the 1824 election with Andrew Jackson and John Quincy Adams and Henry Clay. But this is what happens. If nobody gets a majority, the House gets to decide the winner, and it takes it out of the hands of the American people. Electors do not have, so the people that are officially cast the ballot from every state, so like Kentucky has 8 electors, either 8 Republican electors or 8 Democrat electors, depending on which party wins the popular vote. They can legally vote for anybody. So let's say in the next election, Trump is the Republican nomination, and the ballot, the way the people vote in the state of Kentucky determines that it's the 8 Republican electors that get to vote. Those 8 Republican electors legally can vote for anybody. So they do not have to cast their official ballot for Trump. It's called an unfaithful elector situation. They can vote for anybody. So those people have a little bit more power than us in the grand scheme of things if they choose to abuse their power. First Amendment, freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition. We did not go over these, but on your test, it will be all of the above. It'll be one of those that once you see it, you'll know that all these are things guaranteed under the First Amendment. What does the Establishment Clause prevent the government from doing in regards to religion? So remember, the government cannot create or establish a church for the state or the national government. And 2, the government can, under no circumstance, ever give aid or money to religion. And a lot of those Supreme Court cases we looked at in class, like with the religious instruction on public school grounds, remember that was unconstitutional because the public school building is supported by government funds, by taxpayer dollars. So the government can never, ever aid or support religion in any way. The relationship between prayer and public schools today, as government employees, public school teachers can never, ever lead students in prayer. So this is the Engel versus Vitale case, okay? But this is because teachers are government employees, public school teachers are government employees, so we cannot push religion. But B, students are a captive audience. In other words, you guys are forced to be here at school, and we can't pray because that's a situation where you guys have to listen to something that you may not agree with, and that violates your freedom of religion. However, so here's where people will get this confused. With this case, we did not eliminate prayer from schools. We just eliminated teacher-led prayer in schools. Students have a right to pray anytime they want to in schools. Okay, I can pray as long at school. Like if I want to pray when I'm in here by myself, during planning, I can do that. I just cannot lead you guys in prayer as a government employee. The difference between a religious belief and a religious practice. We went over this. Okay. Belief is just an idea in your head. Practice what you do. The government can never, ever limit what you believe, but they can limit your actions if they are harmful to society. And this distinction came out of the Supreme Court case Reynolds versus United States. Remember the Mormon dude? He, married more than one wife, and broke the law. And he said, because at the time the Mormon Church allowed that, he said it was part of his faith, but the Supreme Court ruled against him because he broke the law. And they said that they have the right to limit that if it is harmful to society. All right. The representative from Kentucky's 1st Congressional District, that is James Comer. So from our congressional district. And then the 2 senators from Kentucky is Rand Paul and Mitch McConnell. Okay. And I think I misspelled McConnell. Sorry about that. These 2 will be your bonus questions. I usually don't tell you all the bonus, but I'm telling you now because I think it's important to know your congressman. If you have any questions, just ask me. This was meant to give you guys something to run through if you needed it. And if you don't want to listen to me, that's fine. If you've listened to me this long. But again, the full study guide, if you don't want to have to scroll back through this video, is posted in Google Classroom if you need it. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions. Have a great rest of your day.